Please join me in welcoming Adrienne Dawes.
Right. Hello, Swanee. Thank you so much for supporting all of us, and thank you, Swanee, for the gift of allowing us to gather together. This is my first time at Swanee, and I'm so grateful for this experience. I feel like my brain and my heart have opened and exploded in some really lovely, weird ways, so thank you. And today's reading, I wanted to return to the script I originally submitted for the fellowship. It's my play, Harry and Sherry. Harry and Sharon, aka Sherry, are an adorable interracial couple living in gentrified East Austin. When they are very graciously and very publicly open their home to Rashai, a 12-year-old former foster care youth with special needs, Harry and Sherry are confronted with the ugly realities of their marriage and good intentions. Today we're going to read two scenes that take place kind of in the midpoint of the play. And what you need to know is the character Rashai is performed by two different actors. One is a youth actor who is disabled and mixed race and represents the real Rashai in the world of the play. And there's another adult actor who portrays the version that his father sees. And the audience actually never sees the child version until the very end of the play. So like a Cole House Jr. special, if you know. Ragtime, the musical. You also need to know that Harry and Sherry are incredibly wealthy and privileged, and they do not heed the warnings of Rashai's case manager, who really strongly believes that Rashai should be placed in a home without a male caregiver, given his history of abuse and neglect. This excerpt is going to reference some physical and sexual violence. We're not obviously going to enact that physically on stage, but just as a content warning that is a part of this world. And here is Harry and Sherry by me, Adrienne Dawes. All right. Characters: Harry, 20s, early 30s, white male, the husband. Sharon, late 20s to 30s, female black, the wife. Rashai, 20s to 30s, male black, the adopted son as Harry sees him. An uplifting karaoke pop song plays.
That's right. She doesn't just make jewelry, she sings.
Party lights reveal the living room decorated for a Valentine's Day home karaoke party. A big bear-shaped cake sits on the coffee table, decorated with Happy Gotcha Day and red frosting. Sharon, mildly buzzed, appears center stage dressed in a beautiful shapeless red gown with gold sandals. She holds a stemless wine glass of rosé in one hand and a rose gold karaoke mic in the other.
From our family to yours, thank you for supporting our amazing son, Rashai. Yeah, let's clap for that. Now, when we first met Rashai, everyone told us he's low functioning. He'll never be able to attend normal school. We were like, excuse? We do not accept your limitations. Kirsten, earrings, I see you. We do not accept your limitations put on our son. So we assembled an incredible team. Heather, kids are out back. Maddie can go on ahead. Hi, Maddie. And we hired an amazing personal care attendant, Consuelo. Actually, Consuelo, can you get the door? Yeah, can you get the door? Who's there to assist Rashai every step of the way. We are thrilled Rashai has found a community, found his tribe at Huntington Wexler's. Go Tigers! Right, Principal Carter? Where he is flourishing before our very eyes. Thank you and your families for opening your minds, opening your hearts, for seeing not just Rashai's abilities, but Rashai's possibilities. Now, y'all help me sing this one. Fire to the rain, and I threw us into the flames where we fell. Something died, 'cause I knew that was the last time, Sometimes I wake up with the door, but how you come as we waiting for.
karaoke song starts, Harry appears wearing designer jeans, a flower print dress shirt, and leather jacket with Best Dad embroidered in pink letters on the back.
Oh, y'all indulge me one more. I have a special family treat. Harry?
Yes.
Harry, get the kids from outside. Actually, pause the track first.
Harry finds the remote control and pauses the karaoke.
Harry, kids, outside.
Yes.
Harry, oh, Harry, he's been such a great, like his paternal instincts, amazing partner for this mama. Oh, look, rose gold, rosé.
Sharon displays her jewelry to a nearby audience member.
Sneak peek, not even on my website yet, but you see something you like and I'll hook you up. That's right, the Think Peace flagship opens next month. Thank you. Yes, it's been a long journey awaiting for additional funding that never came, so finally I was like, fudge it, I'ma do it myself. Open up my own store, myself. So y'all, do me a favor. Don't shop at Kendra Scott. Kendra Scott is the devil. No, I'm kidding, but she is the devil. Kendra didn't build her company with $500 and a dream. Her rich husband paid for it. So I need y'all, all y'all, to put that same support, those same dollars into local business run by independent Black women. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, I know I'm right.
She clinks wine glasses with him. Harry re-enters, a look of panic on his face.
Sharon.
Babe, we're supporting Black businesses for Valentine's.
Great. Have you seen Rashai?
Kiss me. Kiss. I am working these white people. They don't even know.
He's not outside. He's not outside.
Then he's probably in his room. Oh, Harry, did you even look?
Harry forcefully pulls Sharon up to her feet.
Sharon, I need you to stop drinking.
Excuse?
He holds her by the
Stop
wrist.
drinking and help me find...
Why are your hands on me?
Rashai suddenly appears, dressed in his party suit. Harry immediately releases Sharon.
Honey,
Rashai,
let's sing
where have you
our-
been?
Rashai unzips his pants and pees onto the decorative cake.
You looked.
What?
You looked.
He's in front of me, in front of everyone.
Sharon!
Harry!
Blackout. We're going to move forward to a scene in part 3. Early morning, Rashai Spire sits on the couch, his arms tightly folded across his chest. He wears his bear hat, a bear shirt, and bear printed shorts. Harry flits around the living room, setting up a makeshift classroom with 2 desks and a whiteboard propped up over the flat screen TV.
All right. Since you got the boot from Huntington Wexler and Consuelo bailed, your mom and I have decided to take your education into our own hands. Welcome to homeschool. Oh, selfie. All right, let's send one to Mom at her store. Smile. No?
Harry snaps a few pictures, then quickly reviews them on his phone.
She's gonna love at least one of these. All right, let's hit the books.
Harry sits at his desk, motioning for Rashai to sit at the smaller one. There's an obvious height difference between them, so that Harry sits up much higher than Rashai.
Now, I Googled different educational philosophies, same curriculums, and it seems like everyone is saying the same thing. Student focus, student design, this is how we fix America. So, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What do you want to learn from me? Don't hold back. Could be anything. What should I teach you? Mi brain et tu brain. Brain. I wonder what that is in Spanish.
He searches on his cell phone.
Cerebro. It's easy to remember. Bro, come tu y cerebro.
Here he writes cerebro in large letters on the whiteboard.
Actually, I love the idea of learning Spanish. I always wonder what people say about me. Let's make it like a word of the day. Like, every day we'll learn a new word. Know what? Rosario's already here to every day to clean. Maybe it's conversational. Like we watch Netflix in Spanish, no captions. Then we have to give Rosario a movie review totally mente in español.
He writes Spanish on the whiteboard with a check mark.
I love that. Anything else you wanna? Do you have any interests? Not bears. Bears aren't an interest. I mean, sports, engineering. Here's a better. What do you want to do with your life? Your future. One word. Go. I know, big question. You're only 12, but you can take it one word. What's the word? Any word. For me, it's 2 words. Inspiring, innovating, wood sculptures. Come on. 10 years into the future, where's Rashai? Where are you at? College? Gap year abroad? Come on. Everybody thinks of this stuff. Like, example, when I was your age, I used to want to be a cop. I know. That obviously means something very different now, but then...
Why?
Why Popo? They help people, or supposed to anyway. Supposed to fight the bad guys and rap about drug prevention. 80s were very different. You don't even know what my generation went through for you. My dad used to.
Poor.
My parents? No. I mean, we were lacking in other areas.
House.
A few. But one primary residence, we had to share the vacation home.
Mom.
Oh.
And Dad.
Technically, I was raised by my immigrant nanny.
You have everything.
Not everything. Enough. Just enough.
Don't work.
What do you call this? A vacation? This is work. This is my job now. Plus, I still sculpt. People commission me to...
How much?
It's not always a monetary... Look, I appreciate the call and response here. This is homeschool. So, gold star, my dude. We should totally be discussing socioeconomic assumptions of privilege, stereotypes of all covers, even what? You know what? This is a podcast. Harry and Rashai on the fly. Harry and Rashai, why ask why? That's actually...
He writes podcast on the whiteboard with a check mark.
Look at the progress we've made in just 3 minutes. Imagine 4 years of this.
No!
Your mom's going to be so proud of me. I told her I could do it.
I go now.
Where would you go?
Room.
Do you walk out of school whenever you're...
No. Yes.
Okay, well, homeschool's different. We're making a commitment to your education. Together. So, let's figure out how... Hey, this is your time, okay? It's on you if you're bored. Come on, there's got to be something you want to learn.
Fight.
Rashai, I'm not teaching you to fight.
Don't know.
No, I know how to fight. I just think there's got to be an educational, like how does fighting fit into your vision for the future?
Hurt whoever hurt me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's technically more vengeance than educational, but I get it. Survival. Your word for the future. Oh, we should Google Greco-Roman. I used to wrestle back in high school.
Boxing?
I'm not a boxer. Look at me.
You don't fight.
I can fight. All right. Okay. Let's learn boxing. Move your desk.
Rashai and Harry move their desks. Rashai has grown a good 2 to 3 inches since we last saw him standing.
You're not getting any shorter.
You really fight.
I'm teaching you. Okay? Fighter stance. Good, yeah. Now Duke's up. Let's try a little punch jab, slow motion, like underwater.
He slow motion punches the air just inches from Rashai's face.
You blinked! Not gonna hurt you much. Talking's a part of fighting. Gotta talk that smack, that mad smack. I wrestled with an alligator. Done tussled with a whale. Come on, get into it. Yeah, there you go. Now talk some smack. Come on. What you gonna do?
I hit you.
What else?
I hit you hard.
Faster. More poetry. I murdered a rock. Injured a stone. I'm so mean I make medicine stick. Dance around. Come on. Nobody's got time for no speech impediment.
Harry bops him on the side of the head.
What you gonna do, sucker? Gonna do something? Do something.
Harry pushes into Rashai, roughly egging him on.
I know you wanna hit me. Come on. Hit me. Quit twirling around like a little fairy. I'll put you in a dress with that long hair. Come on, Harold, hit me. You want to hit me? Hit me. Hit your dad. Hit me.
Rashai lands a solid punch, light shift.
Oh my God, did you break it? Did you break it?
Rashai laughs and laughs. He grows bigger and bigger.
I, King Bear, bad man. I, so pretty. I beautiful. Everybody love me. Nobody wants you. You weak. You dumb. You so small, don't even see you. You nothing. Nothing. Talk like that.
End of excerpt. Thank you. Thank you, actors. As actors are vamping off, just some very quick plugs. The world premiere of Harry and Sherry will be next February with Salt Lake Acting Company. So if you're in Utah, come say hey. Yeah, first production. There's a second production in Kansas City at KC Melting Pot Theater in the summer sometime. And if you happen to be Northwest Arkansas, my thesis production, This Bitch, Esta Sangre Quiero, will be in September. So I'd love to see you. Please keep in touch. Happy to float you some tickets. And please clap now for Michelle Hart.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Leah and Gwen and Adam and Brianna. You guys are wonderful writers in addition to being wonderful hosts. This is quite a dream. I'm going to be reading from my novel that just came out in May called We Do What We Do in the Dark. Thank you. It's a book that's in many ways about loneliness, so I'd also like to give a shout out to the friends I've made here who've made me feel a little less lonely, so thank you. When Mallory was in college, she had an affair with a woman twice her age. When the woman was 17, she herself had had an affair with a man in his 40s. Mallory admired the woman so much that, for many years, any similarity between them flattered her. Mallory had run on the treadmill behind the woman at the university's gym for weeks before they actually met. It was September of her freshman year. Mallory, whose mother had died months before, had become haunted by the prospect of poor health. Also, she was a first-year student and worried about letting something free, like a gym membership, go to waste. The school's main gym was in the midst of renovations. A crude makeshift workout area now occupied one half of the intramural basketball court. This was separated from the other half by a large mesh curtain. The treadmills and weightlifting equipment were laid atop a foundation of cardboard flooring so as not to scuff the hardwood underneath. It was a squalid, airless space, almost like a hospital, with nowhere pleasing to look. Mallory felt drawn to the woman the first time she saw her. The woman had walked into the gym wearing a loose-fitting tank top so slack it billowed as she moved. She carried an alluring sadness about her, with dark pouches under her eyes that seemed to hold a lot of weariness and wisdom. The woman's facial expression dramatized the solitude Mallory herself felt inside. The woman wore it well, and as her shirt lifted from her body, Mallory saw the woman's melancholy as an invitation, a shared space for the two of them. Tied to the woman's wrist was a small folded towel, and when the woman stepped onto the treadmill, she unwound it, draping it over the machine's control panel so the buttons and the time were hidden. She worked out on her own internal clock, without headphones and free of distraction. The woman's body was taut and muscular. It was the kind of body that seemed like it would never be stricken by illness. The woman, Mallory learned, went to the gym at the same time every other day. She ran 3 miles in 24 minutes. In that period, Mallory could hardly run 2, but she found watching the woman made the time tick heedlessly. Seeing how fit the woman was, Mallory began to eat healthier. Instead of a bagel at breakfast, she had a banana or some yogurt. Instead of a sandwich for lunch, she ate a salad. By the end of her first month away at school, she'd burned off most of the baby fat she still carried with her. After 18 years of avoiding her reflection, or else being preoccupied by its abject homeliness, she now stood for long, surreptitious spells in front of the mirror in the communal bathroom with her shirt hiked up. The university Mallory attended was on Long Island. The campus, a 45-minute train ride from Manhattan, lay between 2 towns, one said to be seedy, the other considered posh. The bad part had the bars, where some of the students went on weekends, since they were within walking distance. The good, which was harder to access without a car, had the manicured lawns of the professors' homes. The college was mostly a commuter school, and on nights and weekends it was as 2/3 of the students simply vanished, like the rapture. Lacking both a car and an interest in bars, Mallory felt at once claustrophobic and isolated, a feeling with which she'd been familiar for most of her life. She'd hoped college would be different. Her body vibrated with potential energy. But walking to and from her classes, she saw the sprawling campus as indifferent to her. She had the perpetual feeling of sneezing without being blessed. Other than her roommate, whose name was Joy, Mallory hadn't made any new friends. Together, their dorm room was a pair of Greek theater masks, Joy on one side, Mallory on the other. Joy had come to the college to study drama. She had the looks and the disposition for acting. Many things she did seemed dramatic. When she spoke or ate, she obscured her mouth with the back of her hand. When she read, she sometimes shut the book and bit into its jacket. When she watched shows on her laptop, she blinked rapidly and forcefully, as if she was wincing or willing something into happening, like Barbara Eden in I Dream of Jeannie. Joy had spent most of their first few weeks at school preparing to audition for the school's play. She rehearsed monologues from Shakespeare and her favorite films. Some of these she performed for Mallory, but Joy didn't get a part. This devastated her, and for days after her audition, she became withdrawn. Time passed, however, and Joy declared that the following semester she would study pre-law. The courtroom was a different kind of theater, she said, one that paid much better. Her tossing aside an old life so easily brought Mallory comfort. A new one might be waiting for her, too. On a Tuesday night at the end of September, Mallory spoke to the woman for the first time. The university was hosting a visiting writer. Because she was studying literature and because of the writer's book jacket had bestseller emblazoned on it, Mallory thought she ought to go. There were cookies by the entrance of the small auditorium where the visiting writer read. Mallory put one on a clear plastic dish and filled a paper cup with black coffee. She sat by herself in the last row. She broke the cookie in half and broke the half in half before sliding it daintily between her lips. As she chewed, she held a hand in front of her mouth, ladylike, the way Joy ate. She saw the woman sitting in the second row. The woman's head was bowed as if reading a book in her lap. Her blonde hair had been pulled loose from the ponytail she wore at the gym and hung down to her shoulders. Mallory had run on the treadmill behind her so often by then that she could make out the woman from many rows back. An older man, the chair of the English department, called the small crowd to attention. This prompted the woman to look back and survey the room. In doing so, she found Mallory. Mallory looked away, but when she looked back, the woman's eyes were still on her. The woman's hair was parted down the middle, such that both sides appeared as the arches of a lowercase m. Mallory fingered the tips of her own hair, the way her mother had worried the ends of her wig when meeting someone new. Before she began reading, the visiting writer, who possessed a kind of free-spirited frumpiness that made her appear as a soothsayer, told a story about riding the subway in New York City a few weeks earlier. On the train, she said, she had sat across from a man reading a newspaper. The man was bald and had bags under his eyes. The newspaper was from September 12th, 2001. The writer had done a double take to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. The man was reading over the news in a distressed daze, as if the disaster had happened the previous day, though it was now 7 years later. Watching him made the writer's heart sink. She wondered whether the man was a writer himself, a trauma survivor, or a time traveler. Getting off at her stop, she thought, those might all be the same thing. Uneasy, fragmented laughter scattered throughout the auditorium. No one knew whether the anecdote was meant as a joke. The writer then read from her most recent novel, which was set sometime in the 60s, when the author herself had been a young girl. As the writer read, Mallory drifted off. She fantasized about her own future fame, or at least what it might feel like to be seen and revered for her experiences and ideas. She had plenty of the latter, but few of the former. After the reading was over and after a short Q&A, the woman slid herself from her seat and made for the auditorium's exit. Mallory, feeling bold, fled after her. She followed the woman into the bathroom. The woman went into one of the stalls, and Mallory stood in front of the wide mirror above the sinks, rocking back and forth on her heels. The woman's urination echoed in the empty restroom. Thinking the woman might be embarrassed by that sound, Mallory turned on the sink, which was automatic. This meant she had to constantly wave her hand underneath the tap to keep the water on. She pumped soap into her hand and washed it off. All possible vestiges of the soap had been scrubbed away when, finally, the woman emerged from her stall. Watching the woman move in the mirror, Mallory pulled a paper towel from the ream. She pulled too many and offered the surplus to the woman. "Thank you," the woman said, once she was done washing her hands. She spoke with a slight German lilt. What she said sounded more like, "Thank you." "Where is the breath mint, the lotion?" "Shoot," Mallory said. She patted herself down as if those things might actually appear. They smiled at each other as if they'd been seated together on a once turbulent plane, now out of peril. Mallory was charmed and disarmed by the woman standing before her and could not think of anything else to say. Fantasies of meeting the woman had occurred so frequently that she found the reality baffling. She opened her mouth to speak, but then closed it, tasting the simple sweetness of the cookie she had eaten and the bitterness of the black coffee. The woman balled up the paper towel and threw it out. She offered her name and asked Mallory's. Mallory did not like her name very much, but when the woman repeated aloud, Mallory Green, it sounded somehow mellifluous, like it belonged in a storybook. The woman pulled open the door. "Are you going back in?" she said. "I don't think I'm going to buy a book," said Mallory, "so it seems like I shouldn't." "The book is not very good anyway," said the woman. "I was more interested in that man on the train." By themselves in the bathroom, in public but out of view, the woman's scorn gave Mallory a conspiratorial thrill. They left the restroom and went their separate ways, peeling away from one another, Mallory felt, with reluctance. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. This is the last scene in this chapter, which is one of my favorite scenes in the book. The end of the semester loomed. In mid-December, on what she assumed was their last night together, Mallory took the train into Manhattan to meet the woman for dinner. They went out for sushi, a food Mallory had never eaten before. The restaurant was long and narrow, illuminated only by rectangular lanterns that seemed suspended freely in the air. She ordered what the woman did. Mallory looked around. She feared the other diners knew they were lovers. Their relationship had only ever occurred within the walls of the woman's bedroom, and now it was as if they'd invited others into that room. The woman asked her what was wrong. Mallory hesitated. "You're not worried about being recognized?" The woman thought about this and shrugged. "What do we even look like?" Then she said, "Are you worried they'll recognize us as having been intimate? Would that make you ashamed?" To avoid answering right away, Mallory drank some water. There was a slice of lemon wedged on the rim of the glass. She flicked it off and it fell into the drink. With her straw, she pushed the lemon down to the bottom of the glass, past all the ice, and tried to bring it back up. She didn't know how to have a conversation about shame, or even why she felt it. She told the woman, "It's not you. I'm an only child, right? So I've been used to doing everything alone. And growing up, I don't think I was ever aware of anyone who, was like me. So I felt alone in that too. It just feels like this thing I've had to bear by myself." The woman stared into her soup bowl. Her despondency, usually kept hidden, blew across the table like a draft. Many of the woman's books were about shame, and Mallory wondered whether the woman's own adolescent shame over having been born in Germany, a country that ignored and was hated for its past, over having lived a normal life while her sister was sick and later dead, had dissipated. Mallory wondered whether shame could become so outsized that it went away, like a balloon that swells until it pops. "Have you always known?" the woman asked Mallory now. "Probably, yeah. You once said you were a miserable child, and I think I was too, or at least that's how I remember it. But I think I kind of liked being that way. My next-door neighbor had this dog, Wednesday, named after the daughter from the Addams family, and she thought I resembled her. The character, I mean, not the dog. All broody and dark. I thought that what made me unique was that I was so sad, and that what made me most unhappy were other girls. So I guess I sort of thought that I liked girls only because I liked the feeling of being sad." At this, the woman smiled, which bloomed into a laugh. "Mallory," she said, "I want the world for you." A waiter arrived with their food and then left. Mallory watched the woman use her chopsticks, and then she did the same thing. While Mallory's mouth was full, the woman said, "I understand what you mean. I think that when you're miserable, you often do things that extend that misery. There's something pleasing about misery that makes it seem as though time has stopped." After dinner, they walked through Washington Square Park. Being in Manhattan in December made Mallory imagine she was in a movie. Lights from the enormous Christmas tree in the park twinkled. The park was mostly empty. The few people they saw did not know or care who they were. Despite the cold air, she felt warm. She sighed and watched the faint cloud of her breath fade into the night. The woman brought Mallory underneath the large marble archway marking the square's entrance and kissed her. The kiss was deep and sloppy, as if the woman had become suddenly possessed by a teenager's spirit. After a while, the woman pulled away, and Mallory's mouth swelled from withdrawal. The woman looked wistful, her face filled with the flush of girlhood. In this moment, Mallory thought she could make out the shape and color of the woman's youth. She wondered whether that youth had included other girls, another woman. Looking around now, knowing that the woman had grown up in Manhattan and had gone to college there at Barnard, Mallory wondered, not yet having any sense of the city's layout, if they were close to that campus. "I wish I could have been here with you," Mallory said. "You would not have wanted to be with me then," said the woman. "I was not a very lovable person." "I don't think I'm a very lovable person either," Mallory said. She wanted the woman to tell her she was, to tell her she could be. But the woman said, "No one is lovable at your age." Thank you. And now I'm super excited to welcome to the stage my friend Matt Ortile.
Hi. Another round of applause, please, for Michelle and Adrienne. And I will very quickly set something up for y'all. Let's see. Oh, there she is. Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Special thanks to Leah, Gwen, Adam, everyone at the conference, staff, everybody at the inn, to Alex and Elena, our dream team at our workshop, and to everyone I've had the pleasure of sharing a drink with at French House, and I think that might be like 70% of you. This is my first conference ever, in addition to being my first Sewanee, and I came in with no idea of what to expect. Being here has been revitalizing and heart-opening in ways I've never anticipated. Personally, the last 2 years have been disorienting. So much happens in life if we are lucky. Sewanee has reminded me that no matter what, I am always and forever a writer. My name is Matt Ortile, and I'd like to introduce myself to you with some short readings. I'm like shaking over here, this is weird. First, from my book, The Groom Will Keep His Name. Don't you love that corner over there? It was published in 2020, notoriously not a great year. So this is only my second in-person reading from the book. And this excerpt is from the essay Queen Beds, originally published in 2015, and this is the art that ran with it. I didn't spend much time at the sublet on 151st Street. The apartment was perfectly nice, though. 2 friends and I were subletting it from a Columbia professor on holiday in France. On the bookshelves, I found a first edition of Roland Barthes' Mythologies. I worked through the original French that summer, doing my best to interpret old myths. Most of my time was spent at a website known for its lists and quizzes. Their fellowship program paid $10 an hour, and it wasn't much, but it was a step up from my unpaid gigs at print magazines. The assistants who managed me and the other interns at the Glossies had us calling in $1,000 wine decanters to be photographed or researching their pitches, which their bosses always shot down. At the website, we posted memes, drank cocktails on summer Fridays, and raked in the clicks, but those halcyon days weren't without their stressors. As fellows, we were in a 3-month job interview, our editor explained. We were expected to thrive in a high-pressure environment. Not all of us would get to stay. Everyone in my fellowship cried at least twice. I cried publicly at my desk in the office when I got brutal rounds of edits from editors who were fighting each other. Then privately at a bar called Harlem Public to my roommates. I was afraid I wouldn't get a spot at the website after the fellowship. The mere prospect of getting so close and ultimately failing gutted me. I wasn't even up for the job. I still had a year to go at undergrad. I was being childish. I wanted to be wanted. Outside the office, I spent most of my time at coffee shops in neighborhoods that weren't my own. I'd ride the downtown 1 train at least 11 stops from my sublet and station myself at a place with croissants and outlets. There was no lack of such spots at Columbus Circle and in Chelsea and in the West Village and in Soho. I told myself there weren't places uptown where I could sit and write. This was obviously a lie. In reality, I camped out in expensive zip codes to see the apartments and the men that lived there. On Sundays, some people would read the real estate section in the Times. I would browse Grindr. Casual sex was like an open house. My fantasies were built on beefy forearms and exposed brick, so I'd made a habit of running sex apps when in proximity of doorman buildings and million-dollar co-ops. After every 150 words, I'd check my phone for messages, then inspect their selfies for hints of marble bathrooms or windows with cityscape views. Like most Filipino immigrants I knew, I traded my accent for class anxiety. I would respond to any pricey-looking man with biceps, then we'd exchange the requisite facts, HIV status, sexual positions, safe words, etc. Once the rules of our engagement were determined, I'd uproot myself from that day's cafe and pay him a visit for, as it were, a viewing. As their pants and shirts came off, I'd ask them how long they'd been in their apartments, how much they were paying, customary first date chatter in New York. There was the trust fund bro in Chelsea who mumbled 5-figure rents against my mouth, the gallerist who'd seen his place through a decade and 3 renovations, and the hotelier with a bed from which we watched the sunset over the Hudson. I was lucky with most men in their apartments, but of course there were dud days. Sometimes they were bad kissers. Sometimes they didn't hear the safe word. Sometimes messages led nowhere. Sometimes no one messaged at all. But I stuck with it. I'd carried over this routine from the previous summer, my first one in the city. I was subletting then too, spending most hours at the old Condé Nast building in Times Square, shout out to 4 Times Square, at a Starbucks near Lincoln Center, or in someone's restoration hardwared bedroom. Over 2 seasons, I managed to fuck grooves into various blocks. I plumbed certain neighborhoods so deeply that I knew some buildings more intimately than I did the men they sheltered. Not that I conducted my visits impersonally. If anything, I prided myself on my knack for small talk and in-bed banter. There was once a French chef who, perhaps meaning to say I was vocal, called me expressif. I practiced my prepositions with him. Je te veux sur moi, je te veux sur moi. I was sous chef, I joked. I was insufferable. He laughed anyway. I lost track of him, never saved his number. At Harlem Public with friends, I'd cried because I'd gotten my hopes up for a job. It seemed safer then, in all things, to be distant. By force of habit, I rarely worked outside this mode. Even on proper dates with proper men, I kept them at arm's length. I rarely followed up, left messages unanswered. I ghosted often and well, long before those who despised boys like me even coined the term. I blamed my involuntary transience. I was between years at school, between countries, between homes. I was in New York for just a short while. I didn't know if I could ever come back. I was borrowing the city seasons at a time and borrowing as much as I could. A private joke, a sunset, a queen bed with a park view. But these were places where I didn't quite live. I was subletting the lives of men on a per-hour basis. When you sublet, you put yourself in someone else's shoes. You occupy someone else's home, read someone else's books. I could sleep in Gareth's bed, wear his watch or his bathrobe, but they were not mine. Nor did I need them to be. All I wanted was to try on lives that I could return after an evening, the price tag still attached. So whether by sunrise or dinner time, I was free to pursue the thrill of waking up in other queen beds with other possibilities. It was a modus operandi befitting New York, I thought, the city of options. If I couldn't have it, not yet or ever, I could glimpse it. I wanted to glimpse real homes with real adults, ones who'd taken root on this island, woven themselves into its fabric. I wanted to glimpse what my promised future in America could be. I wanted this city. I made it want me in return. Thank you. So 11 days after Groom was published, my mother died. Because of the pandemic, I couldn't be with her in the Philippines when she did. I needed to create my own little world, and so I began a novel. It's given me great joy, and if you'll humor me, I'd love to read for you a tiny bit of it. Well, I'm not getting off the stage, so. The novel charts the Icarian rise and fall of a first-class flight attendant named David, who doesn't keep a home, but does keep a network of married, non-monogamous lovers at all his ports of call, as told by the journalist who writes a profile about him and offers him a home when the COVID pandemic shuts down all travel. This is from Fifth Freedom. In theory, a flight attendant's salary can't afford a watch like David's. I've done my research. He wore a vintage 1988 Patek Philippe golden lips, named after its elliptical design, proportioned according to the so-called golden ratio in art and mathematics. The case, hands, and hour markers were made of 18-karat yellow gold, bright like stars against a sunburst dial of blue gold alloy. Even the strap was blue alligator leather. David almost never took off the watch. In the bath, the tan line on his wrist was comically obvious, even where even the sun couldn't kiss him, and he treasured it a great deal. He was well cared for, well worn, and well loved. Similar pre-owned timepieces sold for anywhere between $15,000 to $50,000 at online auctions. His, it's true, was priceless. Of course, with effort, patience, and cunning, David could and did attain whatever beautiful thing he desired. Certainly, the time I spent researching him, interviewing him, and those who knew him have proved nothing if not the young man's tenacity. It's a many asterisked platitude to say that anyone can achieve anything if they simply work hard or pinch enough pennies. More often, good fortune is, if not granted by the luck of birth or marriage, then something into which we stumble. This point is proven by the loves of David's life. For example, Oliver Townsend and Elmo Aquino were setting aside what they could of their paychecks to buy their own place in London's Earl Court when some dame at the Royal Shakespeare Company offered them her empty two-bedroom flat in Soho. Oliver met her in A Midsummer Night's Dream. She took a shine to him in rehearsals where he held his own opposite her voracious Titania, and she decreed, "You are a fantastic bottom." I'll work on that one. The couple's savings were used instead to support Elmo's grandmother in Manila. When Kevin Carlisle married Kevin Nguyen, the former insisted on bankrolling the latter's career as Manhattan's drag queen du jour. Wigs, makeup, and ostrich-feathered bodysuits did not come cheap, so Nguyen agreed to the arrangement not unreluctantly. In exchange for the venture capital, Carlisle asked that Nguyen attend all his movie premieres as his date in full drag. Unsatisfied with the mutual boost in celebrity, Nguyen insisted on proving his own merits by entering a drag competition TV show and finishing as the runner-up. Still, among her 2 million followers on Instagram, it was a truth universally acknowledged. Without Kevin Carlisle, there would be no Ava Rice. Whereas Ferdinand Lee was born into a noble house, the kind where nothing is ever only yours, but everything is the family's. As the fifth child of the sixth of the seventh, he grew content with hand-me-downs. His eldest brother's tennis whites, his father's old room at Princeton, his beloved mama's trove of custom Cartier. In his world, loss came with gain. Byung-ho once alleged that the de Lesseps family crest bore the motto Dona in morte sunt, his translation, in death there are gifts. Ferdinand did always have his eye on the apartment in Paris. He was very ready to leave New York. New York, he told me, not you, when his uncle de Lesseps died at 81. Dr. Raphael Angeles was 53, his obituary said in the Santa Monica Mirror. He went into sudden cardiac arrest during his morning rounds at Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills. He was pronounced dead by his colleagues at noon, exactly. At that same moment, across the country, in Providence, his only son began his year-end exams. The oral portion of his French final, Imaginez que vous parlez à vos parents, décrivez votre première année à l'université. He left campus to bury the man he loved most in the world and, according to the registrar at Brown, never returned. Court records mention that he was the sole beneficiary named in the will, that he sold much of the modest estate after his inheritance was contested. But that beautiful watch he fought to keep, brought with him wherever he went. In the case of David Angeles, his father left him the gift of time. Thank you very much. So obviously grief is still on the brain. I think it suffuses everything that you write once you experience a deep kind of it. But I finally returned to the Philippines this year. I was there for all of June for my mother's second death anniversary. At Catapult Magazine, where I'm the executive editor, we had to fill a spot on the calendar, and my boss asked me to write something. I came up with this, the first little essay I've written since finally coming home. It comes with pictures. So this is my last reading for today. Thank you so much for listening. It's 4:44 a.m. I have a fiction workshop in 16 minutes, and I am at my mother's desk. I'm in Manila, in the townhouse where Mom died in 2020, in her home office on the 3rd floor. The internet connection up here was feeble when she was alive, so she often worked at the dining table downstairs. In preparation for my month-long visit, 2 years too late, Dad had the Wi-Fi improved. These days, he takes his Zoom meetings in his office across the landing from Mom's. He suggested I take my writing class here. A portrait of Mom watches over me as I do. Today is also her second death anniversary. Well, technically it was yesterday. It's already June 14th here, but it's still June 13th in New York, where I was grounded when Mom passed away at the height of the pandemic, not COVID, but cancer. The last time I saw her was in January 2020, before everything fell apart. This is the first time I've been back to the Philippines since. When I arrived 2 weeks ago, Dad embraced me tightly, crying behind his N95. Going into this visit, I knew I would write about it. The plan is for my next nonfiction book to be about grieving her. This is, I told my accountant, a reporting trip. But part of me wishes I never packed my notebooks. Yesterday or today, Dad and I were reminiscing over dinner and got into the ritual divulging of secrets. One that I can share. When Mom was pregnant with me, she nearly miscarried, and she never told me that. She took the fact with her to the family columbarium. As Dad told me stories, my hand itched for a pen, the back of a napkin, the notes app on my phone. But I willed myself to be present. I still feel guilty for having been absent. To connect with and commemorate her, I've been writing about her, to her. While writing my first book, I faltered during its gestation. Frustrated with the arduous path to publication, I asked Mom who would even read it. She said, I would. Ever since, she has been my North Star, my eternal audience of one. I knew even then I would write about what she said to me, and that tension between living the moment and writing the moment as a memoirist and essayist never fades. At this point, it feels natural. Permit me a cliche. What is writing if not living? What is living if not writing? I should say I am delirious. And awake this early, workshop is over, it's now 7:47 a.m., because my writing class is timed for the Western Hemisphere, i.e. 5 p.m. Brooklyn time. Manila and New York are on opposite ends of the day of the earth. It's been hard and weird to have confirmation that she is physically gone, but I'm grateful to be here at last. The first time I attended workshop from Mom's office, I considered staying up, showing her that I am a morning writer. I barely eked out a sentence from my novel before returning to the guest room. I slept until noon. My daily rhythms are fucked, but I'm making do. Dad occasionally drops me off to spend a working afternoon at Starbucks while he does his rounds at the hospital or attends literal postmortems over Zoom. At the end of the day, I bring him pastries for the next morning's breakfast, or he joins me somewhere for dinner. No one cooks at home anymore. Their housekeeper comes once a week to tidy the townhouse and do meal prep for Dad. She made lots of chicken recently, appreciative but saturated. Dad said, "Titilaok na ako." So we went to Café Breton for galettes tonight. It's 8:33 p.m. I'm working on the couch, and Dad is dancing to German Schlager music playing on YouTube. So, actually, I lied. I suppose he and I share this nightly rhythm, at least. After dinner, Dad tires himself out with a little boogie or an action movie on Netflix while I do work for Catapult. I should be upstairs, getting through drafts in the quiet of Mom's office, but I prefer the bustle of activity, of baristas brewing coffee, of Dad's Tanzparty jeden Abend. I like simply sharing the space with Dad because it helps. I feel Mom's absence more keenly this way and more safely, somehow. I wrote a speech on this couch last week for Mom's memorial ceremony over Zoom. Dad gave one of his signature PowerPoint presentations, you can see where I got it from, featuring photographs of him and Mom and me. For my part, I delivered a tight 800 words about how grieving is a constant cycle of saying hello and goodbye. Hello when I think of her, goodbye each time I do. While I was writing, Dad helped me figure out the best Tagalog word for grief. We settled on dalamhati, with roots in the Proto-Austronesian dalem, meaning deep or inside, and the Malay hati, signifying the liver or the heart. Used in a sentence, walang katapusan ang dalamhati. There is no end to grief. In visiting Manila, I half expected to uncover a deeper level of bereavement, the hard mode on which I should have been playing all along. For 2 years, I experienced my grief at a distance as seismic waves. I had it easy, I thought. I was spared from the brunt of it. Here, now, as I write from its hypocenter, it hasn't felt terribly different. Sure, my grief has introduced a new chapter, to sit where Mom once did at her desk, to take up her mantle in some ways, does reveal a facet of my grief I hadn't yet studied. I'm looking forward to doing so. But I don't think this trip, or my writing for this matter, is about getting closure or moving on, as some well-meaning friends have opined. When I leave the Philippines in 2 weeks, I won't be leaving my grief, heavy as it is, in the guest room. I've had 2 years thus far to examine it, to appreciate it, to recast it as a reminder of how much love I have for Mom always. It's an integrated part of me, and so is she. Walang katapusan ang dalamhati. What else can I do but live through it? right through it. Dad just asked, dancing, if I'd like him to turn down his Schlager music. No, I said, turn it up if you like. I can write through anything. Thank you so much.